at once. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. All right. The microphones are on now. We'll call the meeting to order and welcome everybody here this morning. If you could rise, and we'll take a moment of reflection before as we start. Okay. I'll ask any of the members of council if there's any declaration of declaring interest or general nature thereof. So, sorry, I'm speeding along here way too quickly. Sheila, how's things going out there in the recording world? Ask staff to give a presentation on joining virtually. Sheila?
Thank you, Mayor Eccles. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter meeting ID 891-5626-2480. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being held in 2 locations, on Zoom as well as being live streamed on YouTube. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance at any point during this meeting, you can send a chat message to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you, Sheila. Now I'll ask any declaration of declaring interest or general nature thereof from any of the members. I will be declaring a conflict on 10.1, dealing with the Lions Club request. I might be asking the deputy mayor to take the chair at that point in time. No other ones? Very good. We'll go down to, excuse me, delegations. And this morning we have a delegation from Sean Gilbreth from Shared Tower, proposed telecommunications tower facilities. He's online. He's supposed to be online. We don't see him, Sheila. Okay, what we're going to do then, we'll skip because I do see the other 2 individuals here. The second delegation, we have 4.2, was Shift Solar Renewable Energy. Bogdan Dinu? Yes. And you gentlemen are here. Get yourself comfortable and whatnot. Thank you very much. We'll try to stay on agenda then, but we're not doing a great job of it so far today. Is he logging in there, Sheila? Most famous question virtually is, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And no, we can't hear him yet. Yeah. Yeah. We're getting closer.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
Yes. Thank you.
Glad to.
Sorry, I jumped in a little late, so I wasn't sure if I was if you're waiting for me to talk or not.
Yes, we are. I'm going to say that very purposely. Yes, we are waiting on you.
Apologies. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Good,
at all, sir.
good morning. My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner with Shared Tower, and we have proposed a new cell tower near Ayton. Next slide, please. So this shows where the existing antennas in the wider area are currently located. Bell is in blue, Rogers is in red, and the area around where we're proposing is in a bit of a dead zone cell coverage wise. There's probably a little bit of coverage, and it's probably pretty terrible. So this new site, one of the things that is different about Shared Tower is that we're what's called a third-party tower company. So we build the infrastructure, and then Bell and Rogers and sometimes Freedom lease space on that tower to put the antenna. It's basically a cheaper way for carriers to get coverage in an area that usually doesn't have a large population center. Next slide, please. So this is basically where on the farm property the tower is proposed to be located. It's sort of near the barn. We worked on this site with our landlord, the owner of the property, to make sure that it wouldn't interrupt the farm operations of the site, and we would have short a cable run or short a driveway extension to the actual tower site as possible. We think it's a good location. It's 70 meters tall, which will ensure good coverage over a very large area. So it will bring significant improvements to a pretty wide area, especially in the town site itself to the south. Next slide, please. We also prepared photo simulations of the proposed installation so you could see what it would look like. It's what we call a self-support tower. It doesn't have any guy wires. It's a tapered lattice style, very standard design for rural areas. The key is that they can hold a heavy equipment load so that multiple carriers can be on one tower. So you don't need to have multiple towers in an area. Next. And this is just another view looking south from towards the proposed installation that you can sort of see in the distance there. I believe that was it. Yep. So antenna sites are federally regulated, and there's a consultation process that we're required to undertake, which we have now done. That included newspaper ads and mail out within a certain radius of the proposed installation. Excuse me. We had one question from the neighbor to the north. He just wanted to make sure that the tower was far enough away from his property line that if it somehow fell over, it wouldn't land on his property. And it is sufficiently far away in that extremely unlikely scenario. And there were no other comments or concerns. That neighbor was happy with the answer. And today we're asking for your support for the proposed installation. And that's it for me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you very much for giving this update, Sean. I'll ask any of the council members, a couple of those that do live in Ayton, whether they have any objective opinions of better cell service down there. Oh, because both of them have said they don't have cell service down there.
This will be a significant improvement then.
I'll certainly agree with that, as I was talking to the deputy mayor the other day, and Yeah, he just disappeared after. Yeah, right off the radar, which happens on occasions.
I
No
am not,
question.
I'm not surprised. Those existing towers are very, very far away.
Yeah, out of the range.
Very much so.
And that's part of the topography issues with Grey County.
Absolutely. Topography and trees play a significant role in the availability of wireless services.
Yes. With no questions, any staff members are fine. So you are looking for, we'll need a resolution for.
Yeah, it's called concurrence. It's, yeah, it's not, you're not approving the tower, but you're sort of certifying that you have no issues with the proposed installation and that we've undertaken the consultation that's required.
Okay.
Effectively, you're approving it, but technically you're not.
Well, we're not approving it, we're accepting.
Yes, that is a better way of putting it. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Our clerk has comment. Jamie?
Through you, Mayor, yes, I was just going to note that later on in the agenda, the planner has a report on this item, so the motion would come at that time.
Okay. So you can stay tuned in, Sean, to see how we do, but probably be, I'm going to say 10 o'clock when we get
That
down
sounds
to
good.
that point of
Thank
the
you.
agenda, give or take. And yeah, the report is there. And we'll deal with that when it arrives on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us and stay tuned in.
Great.
Okay. All right. Number one delegation. Number two delegation, again. Second delegation, as I said, is from Shift Solar, Renewable Energy in West Grey, Bogdan Danu, I got that one, and Grant Johns. Please welcome this morning and ask you to the table there, and you'll be able to use the microphone there. It's the gray button there. If you can.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Council. My name is Grant Johns. I'm here with my partner, Bogdan Danu. We're Shift Solar. We are a small independent renewable energy development company that focuses on greenfield projects, taking them from concept to notice to proceed and shovel-ready projects, NTP. At that stage, we look to exit the projects and sell them to a company that wants to own and or operate the projects long-term. Before starting Shift Solar, Bogdan and myself have had extensive experience in North America, working on some of the largest solar and energy storage facilities, including Canada's largest battery to date in Stratford, and another battery at a nuclear facility behind the meter. Next slide. And next slide. Flying through them today. Our commitment, we're committed to working with municipal partners to bring out the best in every project in every community. We believe that is important to bring people together to strive to do good for the planet and to work with integrity and respect. Next slide, please. And why we are here is this slide. Ontario is on the brink of an energy crisis. With growing demand, electrification of assets, and the shutdown of the Pickering nuclear facility, there's a large gap between demand and supply in the province. The IESO has been open. The IESO, which is the Independent Electricity System Operator here in the province, has been open about the need for energy and capacity in the next 5 to 10 years. Next slide, please. So there is some good news. What are we doing about it? So the IESO has launched a procurement for energy and capacity projects in the province. It is called the LT1 RFP, and their goal is securing year-round capacity of around 1.6 gigawatts of energy storage resources. The RFP timeline is being finalized, but as of right now, proposals are due in November, and contracts are to be awarded in early 2024 for these projects. And they are to be operational by 2027. Next slide, please. So the project that we're proposing is called Sparrow Storage. It's just south of Hanover off of Highway 10 beside the Sulphur Springs Conservation Area. This project hits pretty close home for me because I grew up in Hanover. So I'm excited about it. It's a 100 megawatt project. It's 4 hours in duration, so it's a 400 megawatt hour system. It sits on about 40 acres of land, and it's proposed to be connected to the 115 kilovolt line just to the east of that site. The project will offer natural visual screening, so there should be minimal impact to the people on Highway 10 and to the neighbors. Next slide, please. Here's how the community can benefit. There's multiple reasons. This project is grid modernization for greater power reliability. There is emission reductions built into this project. There is short-term and long-term economic benefits and stimulus to the local economy. This site will have pollinator habitats for the insect pollination and the bees. If you go to the next slide, please. Energy storage resources help conserve fresh water by enabling more renewables onto the grid. There is the benefit of fallowing land for the 20-year kind of project life cycle. There is additional community growth support in the form of host benefit agreements that come at a later date. Next slide, please. So our approach over the next coming months, we're going to start engaging with local residents, Indigenous communities and special interest groups and other interest members of the public through stakeholder engagements. And we're going to begin the provincial class EA process for minor transmission facilities with the MECP. As well, we'll be starting the municipal permitting process, includes detailed designs, public safety considerations, local road impacts, etc. And can you go to the next slide, please? So this is what we're requesting of council today. Based on the ISO procurement, they're looking for projects that have municipal support resolutions. Those are non-binding resolutions for the project and does not in any way alleviate our necessity to go through the regular permitting processes after a contract is awarded. It is essentially a ticket to participate in the procurement, the competitive procurement for a contract. Once a contract is awarded, like I said, we'll go through all of the permitting processes in order to get a project approved. Yeah, that is our project. That's why we're here today. Next slide, I think it just says questions. Yeah, here to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Grant, and an insight into the Sparrow project. Any questions from council? Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
Yeah, when I first looked at this map, I was a little confused. I thought it was closer to Newstead, but this is this vacant farmland? Like I don't understand the connection here in terms of you're going to be leasing property from a property owner, which looks like maybe farmland at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We enter a long-term lease. So for the project life, 20 years, allows the farmer to, diversify some income streams. And once we're done with the project, everything is removed and the farmland is returned back to normal.
Right. Okay. I do see and hear a little bit about sometimes with these solar farms that it can be used for sheep grazing, for example, underneath the panels. Is there some potential, or is that the owner looking at anything like that in terms of farming?
So this specific project is an energy storage project, not renewables. Sheep grazing typically isn't considered for these projects just because we have such a small land area and everything's condensed as closely as we can. So there isn't a lot of natural growth in between the shipping containers is what they essentially are.
Okay, so there are no panels involved in this at all?
That's correct. There's no solar involved in this project. No,
it's just
no
storage.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Noon, Joyce?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. You mentioned the pollinators. So will you be along with the storage area, would you be planting anything to enhance that habitat for pollinators, like with certain plants that would draw bees and butterflies and all those sorts of things? Another question I would have also is the battery storage. About how many households would that source provide to, say around surrounding areas, even though it's not a built up area? Thank you.
Sure. To your first question about the pollinator habitats, yeah, anywhere on the project site, within the fence boundary that we can, we would put in, specific native species that would help the local insect population. And to your second question about how many households that 100 megawatt project could deliver power to, have to do some quick math. A 5 megawatt project can do about 900 homes. So a 100 megawatt project could do, 20 times that. So 20,000 homes about. If my math is correct, I didn't want to do quick math on a council meeting.
We don't have our auditors in here today,
Yeah.
and the finance director, bean counter, she's not here. She was here, she's left. So we'll trust your numbers there.
Terrific. Great
Yeah.
timing.
Very good. Anyone else? Councillor Townsend, Doug?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. The battery storage itself, given the proximity to the river there, is there any possibility of leakage, contamination into the river, those sorts of environmental concerns?
Yep, very good question. We will be going through the permitting process to determine all of those, impacts. Battery energy storage facilities typically don't have a large radius of, if there is a fire, of toxic chemicals, but we will be putting contamination restricting spill protection to make sure that that does not happen.
And also another question, you guys basically get the project up and running and all the approvals and get it built and everything. And then I think you said you sell off to another company that will buy it from you guys and take it forward. Now, how do I word this? 20-year lifespan down the road, what's to say said company just walks away from it? And then what happens to it? The taxpayers are on the hook to clean it up and fix it, or is it, as you say, it's a land lease agreement, so then it would impact the farmer or the landowner then would have to deal with it. The other question I have concerning the solar panels and everything itself, and I realize that a lot of people do these projects for the betterment of the environment, but with the solar panels themselves and everything, what kind of carbon emissions or environmental issues have happened to produce the solar panels? And if the solar panels get damaged in a hailstorm, or heaven forbid somebody runs off County Road 10 and takes out a few panels, are they repairable, or do they just end up in landfill? Thanks.
Yeah, good questions. First question about the end of life of the project. We will be going after we get a contract, if we get a contract and we're lucky that way, we have to go through the permitting process, and typically what that entails is either a decommissioning plan or a decommissioning bond be posted. So at the end of the project life, if the eventual project owner decides to up and leave, there is a bond there to take care of all the decommissioning aspects. To your second question about the environmental concerns of producing batteries and recycling batteries, these are lithium ion batteries, so same thing in electric vehicles. The recycling for those batteries is really ramping up, and there's a lot of incentives, especially in the United States, to build those recycling facilities. So in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be robust recycling facilities. If there is a chance that a car hits it or something like that, these are individual containers, very robust, and the batteries themselves come in racks. So if there are damaged, you can pull out a rack, put a new rack in without having to pull it in, completely new infrastructure. When it comes to the environmental considerations of manufacturing these batteries, right now, a lot of the batteries are manufactured in Asia, but that is quickly changing, especially because the United States is building up robust facilities. So by the time this project goes in, it is most likely that the batteries be sourced from there. And this is very specifically grid infrastructure. So it enables, the penetration of more renewables, but you can consider it more like a transmission line in its functionality.
Sure. Tom? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and thank you for your presentation. I just don't have, all my questions have been asked. The only one I have is the regarding the cans I see in the photo here. It's a brilliant white modern container. And I think the only thing that I just want to be assured is that that's what will be coming in and not ones that have been retired from the actual use of doing general freight. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Good question. The containers, shipping containers will be brand new containers. We will be putting in visual screening. So from the road, from the neighbor's property, you most likely won't be able to see the facility in itself, but the containers themselves, we're quite happy making those visually appealing.
Anything else? If I could, a quick question. So was mentioned earlier, there's no solar panels. This isn't a renewable energy. It's taking energy out of the grid, storing it in batteries. So it's a storage facility, then sending it back out in peak times.
Yeah, that is very correct.
Yeah, the concept. A little bit different than the other one. We've had a presentation on TC Energy up near Meaford. That's the Land Force Training Center where they're low energy demand. They're pumping water up into the escarpment and then feeding it back in at high demand times. Instead, you're taking the energy and storing it in batteries and feeding it back in. Glad I'm not on the dispatch of that. I'm trying to figure out when we hit the button to feed it back into the lines, but it's a delicate process, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Same concept as the Meaford pumped hydro storage facility, but yeah, these are lithium iron phosphate batteries. So the footprint is, extremely condensed compared to that facility. And yeah, when it comes to the dispatch of these batteries, that is controlled by the independent electricity system operator, and they have their, the finger on the button.
Yeah. Very sensitive buttons. I have a friend that has worked in that area and whatnot. You got a shower going in and everything else. Very delicate. Lithium batteries are in high demand. The security around the facility will be, is it 24-hour security you have, or not saying that West Gray residents would look to walk away with some of these batteries, but there's some other nefarious individuals out there that it's a possibility. So I guess I'm asking, the security around this monitored on a 24-hour basis, or is it personnel that's on base at the time?
Yeah, sorry. It's monitored 24/7 with camera systems, fence all around the property, and then the individual containers themselves are, locked and unable to be entered. And they're, standard shipping containers, so they're quite robust.
That's what we thought even at our recycling facilities at some of our landfills. It's amazing the ingenuity that some people can attest to. And looking at Councillor Noon, who used to work with the municipality and work in that area, the lengths that they would go to recover. And I guess they were thinking that they were recycling product that we had received. Yeah, just something that will be an ongoing factor probably with the demand and the service that lithium batteries produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's our best interest to stop that from happening. So we'll do our best.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Doug, Councillor Hudson.
So I presume we're at the early stage on this. What about public consultation? Have you done some of that, or is that to come yet?
That's to come. We're working on a public consultation plan, our Indigenous consultation plan, which are all part of the RFP that we have to do, and also part of the permitting work after contract award. This is a very preliminary, municipal support resolution, non-binding, that allows us to compete in that RFP for a contract.
Okay, thank you.
guess just one more question. As you said, it would go to the 115 kilowatt power line to the east there of the facility and whatnot. Underground connection or pole connection along concession 18 there up past Sulphur Springs.
Yeah, we're working on the easement plan. Typically they're overhead lines, but we will work with the municipality and the landowner to come up with the best solution to get over to those lines.
And you're requesting, if I'm not mistaken, also a resolution of support from the municipality at this time to move forward IESO as a stock or piece there that they would like to have the municipality as in agreement with. Am I good on that, Jamie?
Through Mayor Eccles, yes, that stock resolution was included as part of the agenda package. So if it's council's wish to support that, I do have a motion crafted as such to enter into that or to execute that motion of support.
I will quickly caveat with that is the draft form. The ISO has not released the specific form for this RFP, but where it's our intention to have that signed and believe that it'll be applicable to this RFP. But there is the chance that down the line, we need to revise that form.
How does council want to handle this one? Do we have anybody that would like to move that resolution for support? In principle, I guess is what it would be at this point in time. Councillor Hutchison. Jamie, want to comment?
Through you, Mayor, yes, I'll just read what I have written out here. So what I have is that in consideration of a delegation provided June 20th from Bogdan Danu and Grant Johns, Shift Solar, respecting renewable energy in West Gray, council directs the mayor to sign the IESO municipal support resolution on behalf of West Gray.
Councillor Hutchison, you're willing to move that? Deputy Mayor Hutchison will second that. Any further questions on the motion on the floor? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Very good. All right. This probably won't be the last time we see you, Grant or Bogdan. Now that you're on the track to this and whatnot, I'm not sure where you come from, but obviously Mr. Johns, I do believe, has lived in Hanover for a little bit and moved away, but mom and dad probably still there and have a bedroom for you at some point in time.
Yeah, I bug my brother all the time for his bedroom.
And Luke would no doubt be willing to give it to you right away quick.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, enough of that banter. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for the update and the update on this as we go forward on supplying the energy that we're going to need into the future and how to level that off and make it effective. I have had the privilege of visiting a couple of countries a few years ago in Europe, Euro-Asia, I guess, and it's nothing to have, could be 4 hours, it could be 10 hours. Nope, there's just no electricity now. Learn to live with it. That was the time we were in Greece, and so we were fortunate enough, we were right by the Aegean Sea. You could go down to the sea and swim in the afternoon, but it made it a little difficult if you wanted to make toast at breakfast when it went off at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it is one of our greatest obstacles that we're going to conquer going forward, of being more reliant on this type of energy when it comes to electricity. So thank you, gentlemen, for looking out for us into the future.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Very good. Okay. You're quite welcome to stay with us. There's enough room in the room, or you need to get off and do other things. Very much understood. So Bogdan and Grant, thank you very much. We're going to now go into a public meeting. So we'll need to have a motion moved that the West Grey Council recess at 9:36 a.m. for the purpose of proceeding into a public meeting pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act to review a proposed amendment to the West Grey zoning bylaw number 37, 2006. Do I have a mover and a seconder for us to do that? Councillor Forrester and Councillor Townsend. Moved and seconded. So we now go into closed session, public meeting. My apologies, a public meeting to discuss the item. No questions on the motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, we are now into the public meeting. And I will say that it was on the website as being at 9 o'clock, but there was other parts of the agenda, but we're into the public meeting now. I'll call that to order and ask if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none. Sheila, do you have to give any update on anybody that's joining this? Please, if you could. All the rules around virtual.
For members of the public waiting to participate in this portion of the meeting, you may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you've joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. If you've joined us via Zoom, you can either send a chat message to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, either stating that you would like to speak or that you would like your message read on your behalf for the record. You can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen with a blue or yellow hand icon.
Thank you, Sheila. Really appreciate it. I'd just like to remind everybody that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect to the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. If a person or a public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the municipality of West Grey to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of West Grey before the zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of West Grey before the zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before an Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And that is the general nature of my comments. Clerk, Jamie, you have a couple as well.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles. Notice of this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies and posted on the subject property and mailed to all properties within 120 meters of the subject property on May 10th, 2023. The comments that were received before the publishing of the agenda have been attached to the agenda. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the speaker's table. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and the Municipal Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, Jamie. And now an overview. Laura Lee, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from C2 Highway Commercial to C1 with exception number 489, which is general commercial with exception. Exception 489 limits the commercial uses of the C1 zone on the subject lands and permits the location of accessory residential structures to a commercial use on the main floor. The effect of the application will recognize the existing accessory residential dwelling units in the existing structure on the subject lands. In addition, will provide for appropriate commercial uses for future consideration. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the northeast corner of Main Street South and William Street in an existing structure that has been used in the past for commercial purposes. We've been made aware that there are residential units within the structure, the construction of which is unknown to the municipality at this time. Matter was brought to our attention when the applicant was reviewing their septic system and had to make a replacement, and we had to make some determinations to assist them to move forward in this regard, hence the application before you at this time. Next slide, please. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey Planning and Development Department, the County of Grey Transportation Department, who have a caveat that as long as there is safe and feasible access off the county road, they will require an exception from the Director of the Transportation Department to proceed with those spaces denoted on the plan as P1, P2, and P3. Comments have also been provided from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority and Hydro One. Verbal comments have been provided from the public for clarification purposes, but not in a written format. At this point in time, planning staff have no concerns with the application, but I'm happy to provide further clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura Lee, for that description. Comments from the public. I'll look online first. Sheila, do we have anybody online that is commenting this morning? Do we have anybody in the audience commenting this morning? Any questions from council this morning? Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
Yes, just a couple of questions on the, so right now, I presume there's no commercial use of this building. It seems to be mostly residential, but there is potential for commercial use in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. So it's 4 residential units that are in the building at this moment in time, and there's a vacant commercial space in the building. And they'd like to preserve the ability to use that commercial space in future.
Right. So we're not allowing them to use that commercial space for residential, because once it goes residential, it's hard to go back, right? So they have to maintain a commercial space in this building. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So they will need to maintain that use. And as you'll see, as the staff report comes forward at a future meeting, those uses have been scoped to appropriate uses for the building that will also still allow the maintenance of those residential units that are in the building now.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this? This is an oversight, really. It's something that has been participated in and was an oversight on the owners and previous, and now it's making a correction more than anything else designated onto the property.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. So the C2 zone, I believe, was inappropriately applied to the property at the passage of the previous zoning bylaw, allowing very significant uses to occur on a property that's significant limitations for parking purposes. Hence the reason we're moving it from the highway commercial zone to the general commercial zone and scoping those uses to make it more appropriate for the building.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments? Once, twice. All right. With no other questions or comments. Everybody's happy. That may be the only time today the council does that. Thank you. We'll call the meeting closed. Public meeting is closed at 9:44. Very good. Okay. Does council want to take a slight break before we proceed any further? Your indecision is, somebody just say yes. It only takes one on this part. Yes, good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, let's call the meeting back to order. Thank you for everybody managing time well. Down to number 6 on the agenda, comment period. With our procedural bylaws, comments can be made from the public to specific agenda items. I'm going to open it up to the public. Yep, go ahead, Marion. I know you have a couple of comments on an item today. And you may have done this before, so.
So yes, it's Marion Ratcliffe for the record. I would like to address items 11.4.2. Oh, by the way, hello, everybody. I'd like to address items 11.4.2 and 13.5 relating to the West Gray Official Plan number 9. As you know from my written submitted comments, I am very disappointed that there was no change, no improvement to the dark sky wording in any part of the plan between the current official plan that's being presented today and the previous version. There is nothing to show that West Gray has any commitment to preserving our nighttime environment and starry skies. Referencing the Gray County policy alone makes it look like you're only doing this because you have to. And I choose not to believe this. I understand the official plan is not a bylaw, but it does have power. It has the power to shape how West Gray moves forward with ensuring that the best possible choices are made in outdoor lighting to protect the nighttime environment. It has the power to say no to lighting choices that create light pollution. It is a message to developers, large and small, to renovators, home builders, commercial and industrial enterprises, and everyone else, letting them know that West Gray recognizes that light pollution is a serious issue. And it needs to provide clear and strong wording and rationale to ensure that appropriate lighting choices are made in any project, be it new, renovation, or retrofit. And I hope in the meeting today that council lets staff know that changes need to be made throughout this document to achieve that goal and before this official plan is accepted. And I have a correction. I had a typo in my written thing regarding control of escape of significant light from structures like greenhouses. It should say that it's not mentioned. I think I just said is mentioned, but it's not mentioned. No. Anyways, that's it. Thank you very much. And I hope that there will be some changes.
Very good. Thank you, Marion. And I will go, there's only one person here in the public today. I think we're done here. Anybody online? Sheila? And Mr. Clerk, or Director of Legislative. Yeah, Mr. Clerk is good enough. Jamie, you have a couple that were sent in?
Yes, thank you, Miracle. So we did receive 2 comments via email. So the first is from Chris Palmer in regards to West Gray official plan, and the comments are as follows. Dear Miracles, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, Council and staff, I would like to say that I fully support Marion Ratcliffe's comment addressing items 11.4.2 and 13.5 in the latest draft of the West Gray official plan number 9. I think she has once again done a wonderful job of presenting the case for adopting real dark sky protection measures in West Gray now. The fact that staff and council have indicated support for controlling and where possible reducing light pollution, both in conversations, and in the staff report. Dark sky lighting, proposed municipal policy, February 15th, 2022, but have failed to follow through is a shock to me. If no substantive changes are made to the draft, I strongly believe at a minimum, the significant number of West Gray residents who see this as an important issue are owed a detailed explanation for your inaction so they may be informed when deciding how to cast their vote next time. To date, we have been given absolutely no rationale for your failure to act. I must add that this lack of action stands to compromise our ability to carry out the educational efforts on the importance of preserving the night sky locally, which council recently approved a budget for. I had hoped we could let people know that the municipality is leading by example, but as things stand, will not in good conscience be able to do so. You need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Regards, Chris Palmer. And the next correspondence are in regard to item 10.1.1, and they're from Amy Moyes of Big Bites Food Truck. And her comments are as follows. I've been told that the Lions Club is asking for a free permit for the Canada Day celebrations. I just want to inform you, as a local with a permit and having to pay to do events, I think it would be unfair to grant this. I'm sure it will pass, as Kevin Eccles is the president of the Lions Club. I just want to be heard, as I can't be there tomorrow. Kind regards, Amy.
Briefly a second time, Marion.
Just following up that, yeah, you guys did give me the budget money to educate. And one of the points was the Westway official plan. And there's nothing in it for me to educate people on with, unless you do make some changes.
Follow up. Okay. Thank you, Marion. All right. That's it for comment period. Unfinished business. I'm not aware of any unfinished business. Last agenda, adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting held June the 6th. Can I have somebody move for the adoption of those minutes? Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Any errors, omissions? Comments on those? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Committee and board reports. We have two, 9.1, 9.2, Saugeen Mobility Regional Transit minutes from April 28th and the West Grey Public Library Board minutes of March 8th. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive those minutes? Moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Any questions or comments on those minutes? Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Correspondence. We have a correspondence that's looking for direction. This is the point where I am declaring a conflict with the West Grey Durham Lions Club request that's just been, and I turn the chair over to the Deputy Mayor. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Eccles. So that puts us at 10.1.1 on today's agenda, the West Grey Lions Club request for refreshment vehicle bylaw exception. So we'll go over. Clerk Eccles-Weller, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Yes, the Lions Club of Durham has requested an exemption from the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw. There is a clause in the bylaw that states that upon written request, refreshment vehicle licenses that are going to be operating for less than 1 week, council can choose to waive the requirement to obtain a license if it's council's wish. So if council wishes to do so, I do have a motion crafted, and if not, we would just need to receive this for information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Eccles-Weller. So if they would like to execute that bylaw, the availability to waive it, we'll need a motion. If not, we're receiving. Just for clarity. Comments or questions from council members on this item? Councillor Shay, go ahead, please.
I'm just trying to recall what the rationale was for having that clause in the bylaw that says that the fee can be waived for events that, did I understand correctly, of events that take place for less than a week? So basically it's a short-term permit as opposed to the annual permit.
Through Deputy Mayor, yes, that's correct.
So I have no objection to this request, but I do think it's odd, especially take the comment that we received from a local business that does have an annual permit, which they pay $300 a year for, I believe, and is also required to get short-term permits, which they pay for additionally, to do events like where were they at? Was it the Herb Fair they were at just last week? And Touch a Truck, a library event. So these are like community nonprofit sorts of enterprises, much like the Canada Day celebration, sponsored by community organizations or the library, which is somehow an extension of the municipality. So if we're going to approve this, and as I said, I have no problem approving it, I think we should do it for everyone. I think we should say that anybody who wants a permit for less than a week for a nonprofit sponsored event should be able to get it for free. So I would be happy to make a motion to that effect.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Shea, the bylaw is written in such a way that a written request must be received first in order to grant an exemption. And the refreshment vehicle must be owned and operated by a nonprofit as another way to get that request. So the Lions Club has submitted that they are operating as a nonprofit, but the caveat here is that the written request has to be received first.
That's the existing bylaw. What I would be moving would be a revision to the bylaw to say that any so the Big Bites truck that submitted the comment to us has been asked to acquire short-term permits to attend these community events, these community nonprofit events that they have been going to. Were they aware that they were eligible to apply for a waiver?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, Big Bites has been sent the refreshment vehicle bylaw on numerous occasions, so I would anticipate that they have been made aware of this. I can't explicitly say that they were told this specific section, but they do have the bylaw, and as it states, anybody would be free to submit that written request to council for consideration for an exemption.
And is it the nonprofit group that has to make the request, or can it be the business itself?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that was my mistake. So there are two sections within section 19. So there's 26 and 27. So 26 is upon written request, council may grant an exemption. 27 specifically applies to a nonprofit organization, and they would be exempt regardless of whether they submit that request. So the written request piece is for-profit businesses to operate on a one-off 1 week or less.
Okay, so as I said, I'm prepared to support the request, but I will be relaying to the proprietors of Big Bites that in the future, they don't need to get a permit to do these nonprofit events, one-off events. And all they need to do is submit a request to council for an exemption. Would I be appropriate in saying that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, I would say that would be sufficient. Upon receiving the request from Big Bites, it would be council's prerogative to either grant or not grant that exemption.
In that case, I'll move that we grant the exemption that has been requested.
Okay, go ahead, Clerk Ekenswap.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I do have a motion crafted for that. So what I have is that in consideration of correspondence received from the West Grey Durham Lions Club respecting a request for an exemption to the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw for the West Grey Durham Lions Club, July 1st, 2023 Canada Day celebrations, council grants an exemption to the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw to JR's Burger Bus and Ewan's for the West Grey Durham Lions Club Canada Day celebration events taking place on July 1st, 2023.
So I do have it moved, so I'm going to, is everybody clear on that? I'm going to look first. Yeah, I'm going to go for a seconder first to get it, that part, and then I'll go over to our CBO. Can I get a seconder, please? So seconded by Councillor Noon, and I will go to CBO Shipwreck, please.
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Just want to clarify that, are we exempting them from the requirement to get a permit, or are we only exempting them from the requirement to pay the fee? In my opinion, they should still be required to apply for the permit with all the required documents and receive the permit. We're just exempting them from the fee.
Clerk Ekenswap.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the specific wording of the bylaw states that upon receipt of a written request, council may in its sole discretion grant an exemption from the licensing provisions of this bylaw for the operation of a refreshment vehicle as defined in the bylaw for a special occasion of the duration of 1 week or less. I think the intent of this, and I may be speaking off the cuff here, but I think it would be appropriate for the inspections to still take place to ensure that the refreshment vehicle is operating safely, and that this would just grant basically an exemption for the fee associated with that.
Follow up, CBO Shepherd?
No, just to say that I agree with Clerk Eckensweiler that that would be my opinion as well, and my preference.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a moved and seconded, and Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, please. We'll look for comments or questions now.
Yeah, so a couple questions. One, so JR Burger Bus, are they a local business? Are they West Gray business?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I'm not certain as to whether they are or not.
Okay, so I'm just curious. I'm not sure if I see the need for business, like, for example, the Big Bites or any people that have got a license for the year to have a food truck, why they need to get a permit to move to different facilities. Like, to me, it seems like you have a permit, it covers you. And then if somebody like the Lions wants you to be at their event, I would not want people just to go around and just park just because there's an opportunity. I think they need to be invited to an event, but I don't see the need for, if they're already licensed, they've already paid a fee for the municipality, why they have to go through the steps again. It seems like more red tape if they're invited to an event to look after. Now, Ewans is a little different because I don't believe they have a food truck, but they have a business in West Gray. So I'm just curious, like, and then again, with the JR Burger Bus, if they're not a local business, then maybe they should be paying a fee to come into West Gray because they're a competitor outside the area. So it raises some questions for me. I'm not sure if Clerk can clarify any of that, or council who wants to discuss it.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes. So the licensing requirements within the bylaw, the reason why it's set for specific locations is because staff do investigate and review the application to ensure that where the business is operating their food truck, it's a safe location to do so. So a blanket license throughout the municipality wouldn't be advisable because there's no guarantee that where the operation is set up would be safe to do so. So that's why that piece is in there specifically. With respect to the inviting the business to participate in the event, certainly the Lions Club has done that in this case, and as such has submitted the request for the waiver of the licensing bylaw requirements. So in any event where the organizer invites a food truck, they would be certainly permitted to submit a request to waive that duration of 1 week or less as well.
So what is the fee for a food truck to do a short-term event? They paid their 300. So what is the fee to get in? Is it $100 to move their truck for the weekend type thing?
Through an amendment to the license, I believe is $50. If they want to purchase specifically a 1 week license, it would be $100. As I had mentioned in the past, though, if a food truck is aware of multiple events that will be taking place throughout the year, when they do apply for their original license, they can note all of those on there and the specific locations, and they would be permitted to go there then as well. So there would be no requirement for a further amendment if they had captured it at the time. If something comes up after the fact and they would like to operate there, certainly they could submit the request to have the short-term amendment, I'll call it, waived at council's discretion. But outside of that, they would be required to pay.
Anything further, Councillor Hutchison? No. Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just again, echoing some of the sentiment from my colleague, Councillor Hutchinson. I really don't have a whole lot of issues with local West Gray businesses moving around and doing this. This is fine, but when we start getting businesses from outside of West Gray that can come in for nothing and operate, to me, that gives me a little bit of concern. for our West Gray businesses. And I want to make sure we get this bylaw right because I can see the BIA for the market looking at something like this maybe down the road for the farmers market, having food on site and that sort of thing. So when we start changing things all the way through and you know, either we have a bylaw and rules or we don't have a bylaw and rules. So we need to either stand by our bylaw or amend it in such a way that it allows, you know, as I say, the West Gray businesses to maybe move around, but outside businesses need to do something. And I know I remember seeing something a while back on Facebook where a Newstead business is looking at bringing in food trucks and stuff this fall for an event. So again, you know, how are we going to handle that? Is it a one-off or is it something like that? You know, again, and are they local or are they from out of the area? That's my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we just let's make sure that we do have a motion on the floor, and that's what we should be speaking to. I was just reminded by Clerk Eckenspeller. Is there any comments or questions on the motion that's on the floor from council? Councillor Shea.
Could we have the motion read back?
I was going to call for that after we were done exhausted all our comments and questions. So we're done comments and questions. I will have the motion reread and then we'll call the vote.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the motion is that in consideration of correspondence received from the West Gray Durham Lions Club respecting a request for an exemption to the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw for the West Gray Durham Lions Club July 1st, 2023 Canada Day celebrations, council grants an exemption to the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw to JR's Burger Bus and Ewan's for the West Gray Durham Lions Club Canada Day events taking place on July 1st, 2023.
Councillor Shea.
Do you think that's sufficiently clear that we're still requiring the inspections and waiving the fee? It doesn't sound like that to me.
Through you, yes, we can be more specific and say an exemption to the fee in the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw for clarity.
Councillor Hutchison, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure with the clarity on the, so Ewan's, they don't actually have a food truck. Like, are we saying that anyone sets up to sell food at an event is going to have to go through this permitting process and get their fees waived? Like, what happens if some other business decided to set up for other events, but they don't have a food truck? Like, is there a gray area there?
Through yes, so this bylaw speaks specifically to food trucks and refreshment vehicles. So I believe Ewan's may have an ice cream cart or something like that that they may be selling off of. So to ensure that the Lions Club didn't miss something and to ensure that Ewan's would be able to be there, they included them in there. I'm not certain as to whether or not they have a truck, but they captured them just for just to be on the safe side, I suppose.
Because I have a concern as Councillor Townsend had said here about outside companies coming in. Can we break this down and maybe make it into two, because I see there's two different things. JR Burger Bus versus Ewan's. Ewan's being a business in our community, JR Burger Bus being a business not in our community. So if we were to break it down and to amend it so that we're voting on them separately, then I think that would be more fair. Oh, sorry.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Hutchinson, we do have a motion on the floor right now, so we do have to deal with this one first. So outside of that, unless there's a motion to amend that's made, I don't think we could do that. And at that, I would say that the motion would have to be germane to this one. So just keeping that in mind.
Madam CAO, go ahead, please.
There, now I'm on. Thank you. Good morning. I'm just looking at the bylaw and perhaps the clerk can help me through this, but section 1.9 has an exemption in there for any vendor with the exclusive sale of ice cream or ice cream cones. So I'm not sure that, I'll let the clerk jump in. Thank you.
Certainly, yes, it does have that clause in there. So the reason why I believe Ewan's was captured in this in my conversation with the Lions is because they may be selling more than just ice cream and ice cream cones. In the event that they were to sell drinks, I know they sell bubble tea and things like that. That would then not apply anymore. So that's why they're captured in this.
So you're saying I can't make an amendment to the motion at this time? We get to vote on this motion first and then create another motion?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, you could make an amendment to this motion. It would just have to relate to the motion. So if you're looking to strike JR's Burger Bus from this, then certainly that motion to amend could be made if that's what you're looking for.
So do you have an amendment you'd like to?
Yes, so I'd like us to, as the clerk said, we'll vote on the motion, including Ewan's, but then to strike JR Burger Bus and make a separate motion to vote on whether they would be allowed to set up with an exception.
Okay, so I'll wait for Clerk Atkins-Fuller to put that together. So we have an amendment motion put forward by Councillor Hutchison. I'm going to get it read, then I'll be looking for a seconder. How's that? And then we'll discuss that one, and we'll call that to vote. We'll go back to the main.
So what I have is that the main motion be amended to strike JR's Burger Bus from the motion.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Seconder? Councillor Townsend, you're going to second that. Thank you. Any comments or questions on the amended motion? Councillor Noon.
Well, thank you. I realize that it's an outside vendor, but we have to give everyone opportunity. If the Lions feel comfortable having them come as a fundraiser, I feel we should give them that opportunity. We are very probably limited to how many vendors are available for this outdoor event. So I'm in opposition. I feel that they should be supported. Thank you.
Okay, just want everybody to make sure that we can only have comments basically on the amendment. Around that, we can't go outside of that at all. So again, the clerk has tuned us in, so we're gonna have to really drill down on some of that. As long as it's germane to the amended motion only.
Right. So my reason for the amendment is, my concern is what's going to stop 10 other people coming to our community and say, we want to come in and set up at your July 1st event.
So outside of scope. So what I'm going to do is, for clarity, is everybody clear? I'm going to have the motion reread, then I am going to call that vote because I think we're going off scope and I just want to get this concluded. And then we'll go back to the main motion. It's very specific what we can discuss here on that one, if everybody's good with that. Clerk Atkins-Fuller, could you read what the amended motion, which is moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Townsend? We will call the vote. Thank you.
Through yes, I have the main motion be amended to strike JR's Burger Bus from the motion.
Guys, we'll call the vote on that one. All in favor of that motion, the amended motion, sorry. You signify with your hand. I see 5 are in favor and opposed. I see 1 opposed. So that motion, the amended motion is carried, which takes us back to the main motion. Is everybody clear on that? Would you like that reread? Reread? Clerk Atkins-Fuller, just back to the main motion, which is moved and seconded by Councillor Shea, moved and Noon seconded.
There, I have that in consideration of correspondence received from the West Grey Durham Lions Club respecting a request for an exemption to the fee in the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw for the West Grey Durham Lions Club July 1st, 2023 Canada Day celebrations. Council grants an exemption to the fee in the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw to Ewan's for the West Grey Durham Lions Club Canada Day events taking place on July 1st, 2023.
Okay, thank you. So we have had a pretty wholesome discussion on it. As far as I'm concerned anyway, so I'm going to call the vote unless somebody has something very germane to the motion on the floor. So all those in favor, you could raise your hand, please. So I see all members are in favor, or council members are in favor. There's none opposed. So that motion is carried. So that concludes that one. Councillor Hudson, you have a comment?
Yes, so I'm not saying that we aren't allowing JR Burger Bus to come in at the regular fee of $100. I'm just curious though, again, is there something, does that open up a door to other people coming in the area when someone like Big Bites has to pay $300 for the year? But other people can come in and set up for $100 at one time, and they can do that 3 different times, I guess, to get up to the $300. I just wondered if there's some kind of discrepancy there when we allow this, but I'm not saying that they can't come in. They can still come in. They just have to go through the permitting process, which is what we're saying, right? According to fits our bylaw.
Clerk Eckelswell, and then I'm going to call the mayor back to keep back on the agenda. Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes. So basically, if Big Bites, as an example, only wanted to operate for 1 week, they would only be required to pay $100 as well. So that's specifically for operating 1 week or less. Because Big Bites operates throughout the year, the fee is the $100, but certainly they could operate for only 1 week within West Grey and would be subject to only the $100 fee.
Right. Okay, thank you, Councillor Hudson. Your mic's on. Councillor Shea, and then I would like to move on, please.
I move we approve the request vis-a-vis the other vendor, JR Burgers. Same motion as the earlier motion that we just passed. And I do have a comment or a question for the CAO.
Okay, so now we have I'll let Clerk Eckelswell catch that up. So let's move by Councillor Shea, and we'll look for a secondary, and then I'll come back to you for your question.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, just to confirm, Councillor Noon, were you seconding that motion?
So Councillor Shea does have a question for Madam CAO.
I thought good morning. I thought we were not allowed to discriminate based on the location of the business. Like we can't, when we're say doing tendering, say we're going to favor a West Grey business over a Grey County business. I would have thought the same principle would apply here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're correct, Councillor Shea, in procurement, our procurement process, we do not, geography does not dictate our decisions. When it comes to inviting businesses to events, that's clearly at the discretion of the organization. So, geography shouldn't play a factor if they're comfortable with the services being offered.
Okay. Comments or questions directly related to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, does anybody need the motion read, or are we all clear? I do have a move by Councillor Shea, seconded by Councillor Noon. Is everybody clear? Call the vote. All those in favor then? I see 4 in favor, those opposed. 2 are opposed, so that motion is carried. So that completes that part of the agenda, and we are going on to 10.2. So what I'm going to do is ask for Mayor Eccles, if he's around, to please come back and assume the chair. So we completed 10.1.1. Mayor Eccles, I'm transferring the chair back to you for 10.2 correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. 10.2 is the correspondence received, which is presented for information. Motion to move the rest of the correspondence is presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Forster. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Shea.
I wanted to pose a question to the CAO about item 3. Should I just pose the question, or?
Yeah, if it's not dealing dramatically, it's just okay. Yep, go ahead.
So this is a program that creates senior active living centers, and that there's a call for intake. They're soliciting proposals from municipalities to get involved in these sorts of activities. They do have a link to a map that says you can find out where the nearest one of these is. There's 300 in the province currently, and there's not one in Grey County. There's not one anywhere in the region. So I just, and the deadline is July 30th, I think. So I just, 20th. So I just wanted to sort of suggest or request or flag for the CAO and staff that this program exists. And if we wanted to look at it ourselves in that short timeline, I think it would be an interesting enterprise. But I'm just leaving it with you.
Okay, very good. Yep. Look forward to something coming forward on the July 4th. We'll say that that's where we'll address it at that point in time. Get a little further information. Councillor Noon, you had a question?
Actually, mine was the same as Councillor Shay's, and it's been addressed. Thank you.
Is that the next council meeting?
So if I may just clarify, Mr. Mayor, what I'm understanding is Councillor Shea is flagging this for my information and attention. I would be just advising staff that there is an application process, and West Grey could inquire what it would look like to get such a center in, at least in Grey County. I don't know that a staff report would be required. We could just provide an update after the July 20th to see how that went.
There'll be an update at the July 4th meeting and whatnot. And I guess what Councillor Shea is indicating, we would probably need direction from council at that point to make an application. Other than we've received it for information. Jamie.
Through you, Mayor Eccles, what I might suggest just for ease of going through these correspondences, if we could just pull the motion to receive everything for information right now. If there's anything else that council wishes to specifically address, we could deal with that first and then do a motion to receive everything not otherwise dealt with.
I'm leaving it up to the CAO's discretion as to what she needs from council. If you want us to do something now, CAO, okay.
Through you, Mayor, no, I don't have a motion specifically, but I just want to remind everybody that council acts through motions to staff. So when a motion is passed, staff takes that as direction to act. So outside of a motion, there wouldn't be anything. So specifically, if council wishes to make a motion on this particular item, it would be prudent for council to withdraw the motion to receive at this time and then put forward any motions related to correspondence received.
Can the chair of the meeting set this motion aside to deal with one?
Through you, Mayor, procedurally, no.
Deputy Mayor Tom.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion to receive to open the floor. And then I will follow up with returning back to that motion.
Would you need it appropriate? Or do we need a motion to table?
Through you, Mayor, no motion to table would be required. So procedurally, what has to happen here is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson has indicated his intent to withdraw his motion. If Councillor Forster is in agreement and all of council is in agreement, then the motion would be withdrawn. If somebody objects, then we would need to vote on the motion to withdraw the motion.
Councillor Forster, are you fine with that?
I'm fine with removing my second for now.
Okay. Is there anyone that objects to withdrawing that motion at this time? Seeing none? Councillor Shea.
Clerk, you say that staff only act on the motions from council. In fact, I'm pretty sure that staff does an awful lot of things that council doesn't specifically direct them to do, including preparing and applying for grants. But if you like, I would be happy to move that we direct staff to investigate and, if appropriate, apply for this fund.
So Mr. Shea, you have moved that. In the investigation and the opportunity. Got all that down, Jamie? 1, 2002, 2003.
Through your mayor to Councilor Shea, you said investigate and, if appropriate, apply for the grant. Thank you. So I have that moved by Councillor Shea and seconded by Councillor Noon, that in consideration of correspondence received from the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility respecting Seniors Active Living Centers program expansion for 2023-2024, council directs staff to investigate and, if appropriate, apply for a grant through Seniors Active Living Centers program.
Any further questions or comments? Call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Is there any other correspondence items we need to pull? Councillor Hutchison?
Sorry, I didn't want to pull one, but I just want to make a comment about the Hawk's Nest. So whatever you feel that's appropriate. Okay. So just wanted to say congratulations to the all the people that took part in that, but particularly some of our locals. Keegan Hill from KH Carpentry received some funding, and also Jennifer Osborne from Ayton regarding Eco Wool received, I believe, some funding. And there was our neighbors to the east, Julia Downer and Sharon Black from Pricewell, received some funding for Black Forest Eco Oasis. So congratulations to them and going through the process. And I know there were some other local people that got involved in the process because they give you some training to make up business plans and so on. So I think it's a very worthwhile event and it was very successful, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for those comments, Doug. And yes, congratulations to those winners out there that did come from West Grey. All right. If there's no other comments on the correspondence. Nobody wants to pull any of the correspondence. The rest of the correspondence are looking for a motion to receive. We're going to go back to the same Deputy Mayor Hutchison and Councillor Forrester. Any comments on this motion? Vote now. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. We'll get better at that as we go along. All right, that's correspondence. Staff reports. These are down to 11.1. Director of Finance, Treasurer. Ms. Mighton online. So we're down, Carrie, to your report on impact data sharing and service agreement. Any other information or just exciting stuff that Impact's going to do for us here in this financial update you have from them? Carrie, good morning.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's mostly just the updating of the agreement. combining, there was several other agreements and they're sort of streamlining them into one agreement. But it's all detailed in the report there.
Yes, it was. And very standard to maintain that agreement with us. The only thing I was is, has the data sharing been that expansive in the past, or is it just a little bit more that we're getting into all the time with Impact?
Through you, Mayor, I think there's more and more demand on the data. It's the nature of the world we live in now that open data sources are more and more being requested. So it is something that is coming. I think they're getting more requests for use of the data. So.
Okay, fine. So we have a motion prepared there. Jamie, do you want to read that? And I'll see if I can move her in a second or for it.
Certainly, through you, Mayor, I have that in consideration of staff report, MPAC data sharing and services agreement, council directs staff to sign the data sharing and services agreement with MPAC.
So dealing with community services, community service and library programming for everybody out there. Sheila, now you can hear me. Cody, dealing with the library programming. Mr. Hewitt, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Fairly good news report in front of council today. One thing that I can share about this report that has changed since its publishing is the grant received is from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. But basically the grant received is to make recreation and library programming mobile and bring it on the road out to the far reaching corners of West Grey.
Excellent. Any questions? Cody at this time. Councillor Noon. Joyce?
Well, thank you. Just the financial part, when you're tendering the process for the vehicle, would the grant that we've received cover these costs?
Currently as estimated in the budget, yes.
Councillor Townsend. Doug?
Ongoing funding for this, is it something that we can look at getting funding every year for? Or is it something that is going to have to fall on the taxpayers to pick up the tab?
The largest cost of this program is the purchase of the vehicle, which is covered by the grant, and the grant covers 2 years of running this programming. And then depending on how things shake out, we would look at continuing the programming or paring it back just based on municipal budget.
Deputy Mayor Townsend or Deputy Mayor Hutchison, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Echols. Through you to Mr. Hewlett. I guess when I read the report, one of the things that's in the back of my mind is staffing, because and we are hearing they're so short staffed. So I just wonder how that was going to be, or if they've taken that into consideration. Thank you.
Through you, currently we already have staff on deck to run the summer bout of the programming, which is included in the regular recreation budget.
Councillor Shea. Yeah. I don't suppose this is an electric vehicle, is it?
That would be preferred, but we will do what we can just based on timelines of the grant.
Well, I'm going to go to Councillor Noon and then Councillor Hutchison. Joyce?
Thank you. Just another question. Have you looked into the insurance? I'm sure it's like any other vehicle, like operational, like it's on the road all the time, but because of what it represents, is it a more of an impact on insurance or about minimal or the same?
My understanding currently is that it would go under municipal insurance just as any other fleet vehicle.
Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity in some ways, but I do have concern with, as it's already been raised here, in terms of cost going forward, and staffing going forward. So is the staffing going to be summer students running this program? And does, if it is, then that also brings up the thing of, do they need to have special licensing or special insurance? Because then you've got summer students transporting summer students into different places. So any concerns there, Cody?
Through you, there's no concerns with insurance. Currently, all municipal staff with a qualified license are able to drive municipal vehicles.
Can you maybe, I don't know if this is the time, or can you give us a little bit of an idea of what this program is going to look like? It's going to be a combined library recreation, right? So can you give us a little bit of idea what that's going to look like?
Through you, I wouldn't as much call it as combined programming as much of a partnership. So basically at a very high level, throughout the spring and summer programs, when recreation is busy and hitting the ground running, we will be using the equipment in van to do park activation style programming. So basically we'll be sending qualified teams of camp counselors, I'll say, out to different parks in West Grey to do play in the park style programming, where they'll be running programs for a couple hours at a time throughout the communities of West Grey. In the fall and winter programs, when recreation is a little bit quieter, that's when the library will step in and be able to take their adult and children's programming on the road.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Townsend. Doug?
Just one, and I don't know whether you can answer this or not, Cody. When you talk about the library taking it on the road and doing different things, is this a possible, by going mobile, is it a possible way of them looking at reducing brick and mortar libraries in Newstead and Ayton?
I cannot speak to that. However, in building out this grant application, that idea was never floated.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Not yet? Ooh, should. All right, we need, there is a motion to I guess, yeah, just receive this because the library has already made the application and received it. So we'll see how it works out. Just to receive. The mover. Moved by Councillor Shea, second by Deputy Mayor Hutchison. To receive the report from the Library of Recreation on the library programming mobile outreach. Any other comments, questions on the motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Director of Infrastructure, thank you very much, Cody. And I think I did see Mr. Schiffrick. Carl. Welcome. 11.3, 11.3.1. Update information on Rockwood Terrace redevelopment, road and servicing works. Want to give us Cole's notes on this, or has things changed as it did in the last one through before, since this was written? No, go ahead, Carl.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. This report is just for council's information. The deputy CEO up at Randy Scherzer at the county is bringing a similar report to county council, or to their committee first and then to council. So I thought it would be a good idea for West Grey Council to be aware of sort of the progress and where we're at. As many of you are aware, the construction of the long-term care center has been delayed due to budgeting issues, and they're looking at a proposed redesign. Because of that, what they're proposing to do is to do some of the road and grading work that's not building related in the fall of 2023. then start construction of the long-term care center after tendering in the spring of 2024. That's their hopes. So part of that, there's been many discussions between West Grey and Grey County regarding proposed development, what would be West Grey's responsibility versus what would be Grey County's responsibility. We're looking at future development around the long-term care site and how that would impact water and sewer connections, stormwater management, all those discussions. We've had our engineer doing some reviewing and helping us along the way. But basically, what we're proposing and I don't know if it would be, if we could possibly get that map from the report on the screen, or if everybody has that available in front of them, I guess might be easier. It is fairly complicated what we're sort of proposing here, but if you know the area, it's not too bad. But basically, everybody's aware of the proposed Rockwood site. Will be at the southeast corner of Rock Street and South Street. Yeah, in the yellow area on the map there on the screen, or if you have it in front of you on your computers. So the blue area is what the upgrade and redevelopment, well, development of those streets would be county responsibility. There is some small upgrade. We're asking for some upgrade from the water and sewer lines for future development, which would be West Grey's responsibility and could be refunded in any future development from a developer. We are proposing that we would also develop Kincardine Street or South Street from Kincardine Street to Elgin Street, which is a new road. There's no road existing there today, but it makes sense to connect the South Street from Elgin Street to Kincardine Street to create a road access to the long-term care center without having to drive by the school is something that we're looking at, especially for construction, so that there would be access to the site without having to drive in front of or beside the school, especially during busy bus pickup and drop off times. So that's the what we're looking at there. And then there would be an upgrade of the road, South Street from Albert Street to Elgin Street, because that road there is not in the greatest of shape. There's no sidewalks, no curb and gutter, no stormwater management. There is water and sewer underneath that road, but we would be looking at upgrading the size of that pipe for any future development. We'd also be looking at, we're proposing a new well at the southwest corner of the long-term care site. So there would be a water main that would deliver water from that new well to the pump house, which is at the corner of Albert Street and South Street. So we have some money in the budget this year for engineering, which that work is being done right now. But there is no money in the budget this year for that proposed work. So that's something that will be coming back to council in the future when those funds are, or when we have an idea of what those costs will be. We've requested that, as my report says, that anything that's been bolded on that list, we've requested it to be separated in the tender so it can be separated out or canceled or done at a future date, depending on council's wishes and budgeting. But that is basically the extent of what we're looking at here. It is a fairly major project, but I believe it will be a very good project for the town of Durham and the municipality of West Grey. Thank you. Any questions?
Looking forward. Take Councillor Hutchison first, then Deputy Mayor. Doug?
Yeah, it's great to see something happening there. I think I do agree. It'd be nice to get that connection through to what's that, Albert Kincardine, yeah, through to Elgin Street, so that we have access there to the project. I think that's important. I just wondered, with you talk about a new well in there, Director, I'm just wondering, is there any thought that possibly we're going to have to do some work on our water towers eventually? Is there any thoughts of maybe putting in a new water tower in that area before we start getting into what we're going to do with our old water towers up on top of the hill? So it always boggled my mind is that we have our wells downtown and we pump our water way up the hill to the top of the hill to the tower. And then I guess now we're gonna have some development. It helps, but it seems to me that it would be efficient to have a water tower in the lower end of town besides one at the top end. So anyways, just a thought.
Thank you.
Water does flow downhill, but I'll let you go further with it. Carl?
Thank you through your worship. There is a definite economic benefit to having a water tower at the top of a hill. You can see in most towns how the size of the water towers that they have compared to the size of the water tower we have here in West Gray. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a water expert, but water works on pressure, and the higher you can get that water, the more pressure you get. So if we were building a water tower downtown, that water tower would have to be substantially higher than any water tower built at the top of the hill, which would drastically increase the cost of that water tower. So economically, I'm sure it's something that's been reviewed in the past, and we'll review it again, I guess, if there is a new water tower proposed. But in my opinion, that it would be more economical to run that water tower at the top of the hill to create more pressure.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and I do sit on the long-term task redevelopment team up at the county, and I just wanted to say we had a meeting on the 15th, and I just wanted to extend that there was compliments served to West Gray staff for all the hard work that you've done in your department there. So I wanted to make sure that that was acknowledged and you had heard that, because things are really moving along, but there was a pretty big compliment that was extended. So also the latest and greatest, we're July the 6th, we're supposed to have another cost meeting, a cost analysis on the redevelopment. So hopefully we'll get some numbers there and I can bring some of that back. I'll wait and see where that lands. And my understanding was that by the end of this year, we should have the tender out. That's what the latest. I'm not contradiction what you were saying there, CBO, but that was my understanding. And they're talking about being spring ready in spring ready 2024 for the shovel. So that's kind of the latest from that task force. I just want to extend that congratulations on obviously that compliment. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Jeffrey? Councillor Shea?
Is this work all proposed for this year?
Yes, sir, your worship, that is the intent. The county is hoping that they will have engineered documents by the end of July, and that it would go to tender for fall construction. Yeah, that is their intent. So that work would be done prior to construction of the building in the spring of 2024.
And you would be bringing, I think you said options for budgeting.
Yes.
Does that mean it's coming out of reserves, or you're talking about borrowing, or?
Those are all options on the table, including the county financing and borrowing from them as well. That is an option, but those options will be brought forward at a future date.
Councillor Noon, Joyce?
Okay, thank you. Under the road work, it shows construct South Street from Rock Street to Kincardine is Gray County. Construct South Street from Kincardine Street to Elgin Street, West Gray, and so on and so on. I was just wondering, in a normal circumstance, when there's development happening, it's usually the cost burden to the developer. Currently, the portions that you're looking at rehabilitating for extensions, are they through roads at all currently? On South Street, like from Elgin Street on to South Street, and then from Rock Street to South Street? That's one question.
So through your worship, the currently starting from the east, working west. So Rock Street goes south from Sather Street and ends just south of the existing Rockwood Terrace. There's no road. There's a turnaround there, and there's no road that travels south. Kincardine Street ends at the curling club and doesn't continue.
it continues through into the gravel pit, but there's a gate on there and it's not a through, it's a private road. So South Street does go past Tim Hortons up the hill to Elgin Street, and then you can make a 90-degree turn and go north on Elgin, but there's no through road from Elgin Street to Kincardine. So there's that portion of South Street from Elgin all the way to Rock Street currently does not exist. There's no road there at all.
Okay, then my next question or question, since it's not like these roads need to be rehabilitated to access to the new Rockwood. I get it, I understand it, but it's going to be a big cost burden to the taxpayer. So would the county not, because it's their building, would the county not pick up some of that levy or cost? And maybe that's something that the mayor and deputy mayor could take to that meeting. It's a concern. So it's just wondering who's going to pick up the tab. Currently, it looks like West Gray, but I would hope that we get assistance elsewhere as well.
Through your worship, so the blue line, so basically from the south end of Rock Street where it exists, down Rock Street to the corner of South Street, across South Street to Kincardine, and then north to Kincardine to the existing road. So that blue portion on the map would all be paid for by the county. That is their responsibility, and they will be paying for the road, the underground water, the sewer, the stormwater management. That's all their responsibility, and they will be paying for all of that. The only cost in that portion of the road that the municipality would be responsible for is we've asked them to upgrade above and beyond what they're required to do for their water and their sanitary for future development. And like I said, I believe that we would be able to, we would know what that cost is, and that cost would be passed on to any future development, whether it's the county or somebody else who's developing the lands to the south of South Street or to the east of Rock Street. If they plan on developing any of that, if that development is already done, the municipality has already paid for it, then we would be able to bill that back to those developers at that time, because we're saving them the additional cost of upgrade at the time. We're just proactively trying to develop some increased infrastructure so that they don't have to dig a brand new road up again.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess a misunderstanding the way it was written and I know you said earlier that the blue line does indicate that the county be looking after it. So thank you for that clarification. And I know through the county back to the municipality, somehow we'll be helping to pay for it down the road anyway, but at least at this point, I had that clarification. Thank you.
Town of Blue Mountains is very happy to pay 28% of this. Okay. Any other questions on this? No, looking for a motion. This is just information at this point in time. Great to see it happening, and the work that will be going on in this is more site preparation. It's certainly not building Rockwood itself, and that's what will probably happen or start to happen in the spring of 2024 early, but they'll certainly need a lot of site preparation on that property beforehand. Moving to receive, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Townsend. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Carl. Manager of Planning and Development. We come down to 11.4.1, proposed shared tower, wireless communication antenna and installation. This was a public meeting or delegation, sorry, this morning. And this is the motion that Laura Lee has put forward to us. And we have a motion there. After hearing it this morning, any questions, anything further, Laura Lee, on this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions as required, but I have nothing further to add. I believe it was covered this morning.
Any questions before we go to the motion? Self-explanatory from the opening. Deputy Mayor, Tom?
I would be more than happy to move this one, sir.
Very appropriate. And I was thinking maybe Councillor Noon or, Councillor Forrester, who comes to work down there quite a bit. Which one of you just want to argue or arm wrestle over that, the seconding of the motion? Joyce has got it. Councillor Noon will second that motion. And if you want to read it, Jamie, certainly.
Through you, Mayor, that in consideration of staff report proposed shared tower wireless telecommunication antenna installation, council directs staff to provide a letter of support to the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada regarding the proposed telecommunication tower installation at 112168 Gray Road 3 in the geographic township of Normanby in the municipality of West Gray.
Thank you. Any further questions on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That one is carried. Okay. Probably even less discussion on the next one that you have, Laura Lee. 11.4.2 is Municipality of West Gray, the official plan update in draft form here. Anything further on the report that's not here, or just questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to provide any further clarification. Just a reminder that this council can consider the official plan for Durham and Newstead. Ultimately, the County of Gray is the approval authority. Just a reminder that this would have to go to county council for final approval.
Thank you. Okay. Before we put the motion on the floor, any questions? Councillor Noon. For Laura Lee.
Well, thank you. Under E2.4H, previously D2.4.8. Oh, sorry, D2.4.5. This section is hereby deleted and replaced with the following. A minimum development density of 25 dwelling units shall be achieved for all new subdivisions, condominiums, or other multi-unit, multi-lot developments. But then under section E2.4, under E, it says a minimum development density of 20 dwelling units per net hectare shall be achieved for all new subdivisions, condominiums, or other multi-unit / multi-lot developments. Is that a typing O, or what's the difference between one section to the other?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So that is correct. My apologies. So it is 25 units per hectare, and that is in conjunction with the policies of the County of Gray official plans. So that second section that you referred to needs to be updated to state 25, not 20.
Further questions? Councillor Shay. Jeff?
Regarding dark skies, I take it you saw the letter that council received in the last couple of days. And it highlights that at February 15th, 2022 council meeting, council received and approved your report in which you said that the official plan would speak to 10 items here: luminaire, design factors for outdoor areas, municipal streetlights and residential areas, street lighting design, structural illumination, property illumination, advertising signs, recreational facilities and replacements, and that this would be addressed in the official plan. It also went on to say that an urban design principles would be a supplementary policy or document of some sort, and that the West Gray engineering standards, another document, would be amended or expanded to provide the required details and reference to make the items that I just mentioned in the official plan actionable. So I'm just curious why these things don't show up in the current draft of the official plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor. So I would reference you to section 714 of the County of Grey official plan, which occurred through OPA 11. So there are 8 points there with the broad principles of dark sky lighting components. And those have been referenced specifically through the official plan. So rather than duplicate process, they've been included. So some of the points that were brought up, I think, are misinterpreted in the February 15th, 2022 report, in the sense that they aren't all official plan policies. And maybe I didn't articulate that quite clearly at the time, but there are different policies that can be referenced. I'll refrain from speaking on behalf of the engineering standards and referring to our manager of public works or our director to speak to those. But there are policies in place and there's provincial guidelines already in place. And rather than duplicate that process, that would be very hard for us to do. My suggestion is, as you'll see in the official plan draft, that we're referencing site plan guidelines. They may be required a lighting plan as part of a complete application. The point being may and not shall, because if we're talking about different types of construction, if it's for residential properties, it's not necessarily as, if we're having 4 consents and we're not regulating, and we regulate them through site plan approval, requiring them to have a lighting plan almost seems redundant at that point because it's very simple residential single detached dwelling units as an example. So that's why it's a permissive and not a requirement. That's what's drafted in the official plan. We've had many discussions about this, but there has been support at the county level for section 714. There was no objection to it as part of OPA 11. And rather than duplicate process, we've emulated their policies. We can amend other documents to go further, but at this point in time at a policy level, this was felt appropriate as a recommendation by staff.
The list of items that I read are preceded in your February 15th document by saying planning staff intend to include the following urban design policies within the official plan, which speak to Durham and Neustadt : and then it lists those 8 or 10 items. So it does seem like it was specific to the official plan. Are you saying that all of these items are fully addressed in the county plan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there's broad spaced policies in the official plan that relate to those items in addition to provincial standards. And so as a requirement, you'll see the text within section 714 encapsulate the provincial standards shall apply. That is required by law regardless. So rather than duplicate process and make site plan applications more difficult to deal with or subdivision plans, we can deal with them specifically on a purpose and request dark sky compliance.
Are we allowed to be less permissive than the provincial policy?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So local municipalities are permitted to be more restrictive, not permissive. So we have to be as in line with the county plan. We can't change that plan and make it more permissive at the local level.
But we can, sorry for hogging all the time here, but we can make it more restrictive.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that the things that you referenced were shall and may instead of shall. We could put in shall if we wanted to. I'm just thinking that you and together with council in February of 2022 sort of put a stake in the ground and sort of said, here's where we're going with dark sky policies. And we seem to have retreated from that and are sort of trusting that other levels of government are going to deliver the goals that we articulated that we wanted. And I'm not sure that the other levels of government are delivering those goals as fully as we and you stated. Also, this document from February last year talks about urban design principles, another document, and the engineering standards. So I was curious about where the progress has been made on those as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So council would need to provide direction to create those urban design standards, should that be the will of council through motion. Further to that, I'll refrain from speaking to the engineering standards and leave that to the director or the manager of public works in that regard and what direction council has, I mean, they're based on provincial standards at this point in time. So there would have to be a motion for that to be changed, but I think that really should be directed to Public Works.
Again, referring to the document from February 15th, the part on urban design principles starts off saying the urban design principles will supplement the policies applicable to each of the land use designations. So it says the urban design principles will supplement. So this sounds like, and this was accepted and approved by council. So it seems like direction has been given to create an urban design principle, which will supplement the policies. Similarly, it says the engineering standards will provide the required detail and reference to international standards, et cetera. And again, that this was accepted and approved. So I believe direction was given to have that undertaken. So just curious where we are in those two legs of the stool.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the position of this document and the approval of the official plan needed to require prior to any additions of urban design standards based on that approval of the plan. So that's where we stand, as this is step one. Second to that, again, I'll defer the engineering standards comments to Public Works.
So I'd like to see these goals and targets which were outlined in this document, the list of 10 or so items incorporated in our official plan. So could I make a motion to that effect? Is that appropriate? So I'd like to move that we incorporate the items which were highlighted by the planner in the February 15th, 2022 report in our official plan.
Through your mayor to Councillor Shea, could you just read back specifically what it was you were looking for in your motion?
That the items detailed in the planner's February 15th, 2022 report to council be incorporated in the official plan.
Through your mayor, what I have is that in consideration of staff report, Municipality of West Grey official plan update Durham and Newstead, council directs staff to incorporate items detailed in the planner's February 15th, 2022 report to council into the draft official plan for Durham and Newstead.
The questions, Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
Yeah, so when I first saw the official plan in our agenda, I was a little bit discouraged, I guess, because I thought we would have had more opportunity to discuss this. We've had public meetings. and the public have had input, but as far as our council, I don't think we've really had an opportunity to sit down and go through this, and I have lots of questions. So whether we want to do that today because it's on our bylaws to pass, or we want to, I would propose that we defer it until we've had some time to look at it. This is a plan for till 2041, given that we can review it every 5 years, but as I read through this, it reads to me like a lot like a strategic plan in some ways for our municipality. And we really even haven't talked about a strategic plan this term. Every term that I've been on, we've always started at the start of the term and had worked on a strategic plan for the 4 years. We haven't really done that. So to me, this is really it. Or I hear rumors maybe we are going to do a strategic plan, but there's a lot of things in here that go together with a strategic plan. There's a lot of things in here that I'd like to have a discussion. Maybe we don't make the changes, but I'd like to have a discussion on what talks about housing and transportation and trails. There's things in here that I'd like for us to talk about so that we've got it right. Because right now, to me, it seems like we're just pushing it through and there we're done, and we aren't done. So when we get to the bylaw, I'm gonna suggest that we defer it. But if you want to take the time today and go through the questions, I'm willing to do that, but I don't know if we have enough time between now and the next meeting to get through what I want to get through without any discussion. So that's where I'm at. I think it's great that we have an official plan and we're going to make some changes, but I think as a council, I think we need to take some time and make sure that what's in there is we agree with and it's right. And the dark sky is only one example. I think we can make some changes there, and we are going to make some changes. So that's where I'm coming from. So maybe I'm out to lunch. I don't know, but that's my feeling.
No comments from the clerk, so I guess we're still going in the right direction here. What comments do you have, Councillor Hutchison? And then we can start there. Because I think that where you're going with this, you're absolutely correct that we need the political side of this as well as the administration side to make it correct. So go ahead. Start into it.
I don't know. I have to pull up the plan to look at the details, but some of the things in here are typical things that we're sort of saying we will do or we shall do this. But again, can we enforce them? There's no sense of putting things in here if we can't enforce them. And property standards is one part of that. There's a lot of things in here that revolve around property standards, and we aren't enforcing them. So should they be in there, or should we be looking at doing something about it? And maybe from our discussions, we're going to say, okay, down the road, we need to do something about property standards, which we've already talked about. The housing thing too is the other thing. Like it talks about the things that are in housing and how we could, we encourage affordable housing and whatnot, but we're limited on what we can do. We can do a little bit, but I mean, ultimately the builders are the ones that are going to build these houses, and we have to work with them to come up with some plans. So I just like to have discussion around some of these things without just sort of throwing them in there and saying we're going to do them. So I can dig them up and start going through it if you want, but find it.
So working with today, if you feel that there is, and I'm going to propose one small question. When looking at the map of Durham and the institutional, there's at least 2 of the churches are listed here as institutional, but there are 3 other ones, there might be 4, 3 other churches that are in residential. So are all churches supposed to be institutional or? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, they technically should be an institutional designation. It can be changed as part of the mapping if there's blatant errors that we've seen. And there are caveats within the policy document that we can make those changes without amending the plan as a municipality. Just as a reminder, this is a policy document and it is official plan policy document required by the provincial policy statement. This is not an implementing document. An implementing document comes through zoning and through bylaws. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. So that's, one of the small points that caught me. And in saying that, thank you, Laura Lee, that it can be changed without opening the bylaw back up again and whatnot. But at the corner on the southeast corner of Albert and Lambton Street is where the Presbyterian Church is. On the southwest corner of Elgin and Lambton Street is where the Baptist Church is. And then on the corner of Sadler and Garifraxa is where the Foursquare Missionary Church is. Those are the ones that just kind of jumped off at me that we haven't got recognized in there. Would we, and to Councillor Hutchison's point, we've had a time to take the time to take this apart and deal with it on part to part. Would we be better to just have a committee of the whole meeting? No? Okay. That may be not a good idea. Let's see if I can come up with another one and get a shake like this. Any suggestions, Mr. Clerk, on what will be a more efficient use of our time, not a council, to go through this, because there seems to be a number of questions and variations of what council's thinking. Go ahead.
Through Mayor Eccles, what council could do, and it certainly is your prerogative, is you could call a special meeting specifically to discuss the official plan, at which time a more fulsome discussion could be had and any recommendations could be made at that time.
Councillor Forrester. Oh, sorry. I saw your hand go up. Sorry, Scott. With that in mind, is that an idea that we can move forward with in dealing with this? So it's been going on for a long time. I know that Laura Lee would definitely, and Carl and Laura and Jamie and Sarah and all staff would like to get this one kind of off. So I'm not suggesting that we make a special meeting sometime in October. I'm thinking, is there any time before now and the end of June? Probably not, but is there some time in July, early in July, that fits? And my suggestion is staff, self can look at a few dates, put them out there and say, this is when we're going to do it. Would that be the best way? Getting a nod down here, thank you. Resistance on the nods on this side. Doug.
Well, like maybe I'm the only one that sees the importance of discussing this. Like I'm reading through here and I've highlighted a lot of things that I just have questions. Like maybe we'll make any changes, but I have questions. So am I the only one in that boat, or are we good? Because if we're good, we just pass it and we move on, right? So I don't.
I would suggest that, I don't think you're the only one, but I think a wholesome discussion to be able to get endorsement and a better understanding of what is going to be passed here before it heads off to the county. And I like your idea of having a discussion so that staff can make it clear for ourselves and we're not second guessing going forward. Councillor Shea did bring back forth one thing, but I got a suspicion that you're not the only one, because I have a couple of questions myself on that. So we'd like to have that going forward. to move this off and to delay the passing of the bylaw procedurally. Mr. Clerk? Table this.
Through you, Mayor, what I might suggest is that we do a motion to postpone indefinitely at this time to give us time to figure out the best or the most appropriate date in order to schedule a special meeting to discuss this. And then we can certainly inform council or and the public as well as to when that special meeting would be held. At which time too, when we get down to the bylaw, we would also need to postpone the bylaw indefinitely and then bring that forward at a later date as well. So.
Not really comfortable with the indefinitely, but yeah, I know what you're using, the wordage. Go ahead.
Specifically, yes. The reason I say indefinitely is because to postpone definitely would have a specific date tied to it on the motion. And without that date in mind right now, it would be hard for us to determine specifically.
Correct. Yeah. All right. So Jamie's given us an opportunity to procedurally move forward with this. And that would be for a motion to, what do we word that? To postpone indefinitely, defer indefinitely. Doug? Councilor
That
Hutchison?
motion, yes.
Okay. So that's a motion made by Councillor Hutchison. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Forster. Thank you, Scott. And the intent of this is so that council can have a chance to do an in-depth discussion on that, on the document itself. That's basically what we're doing here. And for the public to have input as well too at that point in time.
Through you, Mayor, just to provide some more clarity to the motion, what I might suggest for the wording is that council postpones the report on the official plan indefinitely to allow for time to schedule a special meeting to deal with the official plan.
Okay. Motion has been moved and seconded. Moved by Councillor Hutchison, second by Councillor Forster. Any further discussion? Councillor New.
Is there a specific timeline that this has to be completed? I noticed in the actual bylaw, it shows December 2022, so I'm not sure what previous year the previous one was adopted. So I'm just looking at a timeline, like if, are we, I know we have indefinitely, like to schedule it, but I was just wondering, is there still a timeline to have it completed?
Worley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the provincial policy statement requires that your official plan be reviewed every 5 years. So we're 3 years into the process now. So it needs to be completed and brought up to date, especially in light of Bill 23 and Bill 109 and other changes that have been made to the Planning Act in addition to that, so that we can be operating effectively in accordance with current standards.
Okay. So, yeah, it's more quicker than delayed. All right. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. That's it for that portion of it. See, a couple of people have delayed. We've been here for another hour and a half. I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break and try and be back here by 20 to 12, please, and then we can get through with bylaws. So we'll take a little reset. Order. Questions? Is there any questions, clarification or anything? Council? Staff? No? Then I guess we're down to bylaws. Jamie? Bylaws starting on. So bylaw 13.1, bylaw 2023-059, confirming the proceedings. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. On the confirming of the proceedings. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw 13.2 on the agenda, bylaw 2023-060, stop up and close municipal road allowance. Do we have a motion to pass this bylaw? Moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchison. Questions or comments on the motion? On the bylaw? Councillor Townsend.
Just a quick question to staff when we're again with the road allowances. Have they been checked with the snowmobile clubs and the ATV clubs to see that they're not part of an existing trail? It's my only concern.
Yep. Go ahead, Jim.
Through Mayor to Council, before a motion or before a road allowance is deemed surplus and offered up for sale, I believe those discussions are had at the staff level. Prior to deeming them surplus, staff would investigate whether or not they're in use from the ATV, ski club, etc. So I don't believe this one is being used currently for those purposes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Councillor Shea.
I couldn't quite figure out from the descriptions exactly where this is. I don't know what, part 1 of Division 2 of Lot 27 means.
Go ahead.
Through Mayor to Council, specifically, this piece of land is located near Aspen and Elm Street in Durham.
In the industrial park, kind of in behind the kind of veterinary clinic behind the shop, out towards the old Timber Mart building. Yeah. I don't think capital wise we're going to extend the road down to it today, tomorrow, or well into the future. It clears up a couple of issues that the property owners would have in there. Okay, Doug?
This is went through quite some time ago, and then there was some reason that it came back to us, right? It wasn't because we didn't do something. Wasn't that the way it was? There were some issues of how it was gone about, but the deal of selling the property to Don Tremble, it's behind his shop, was done some time ago. So maybe, Clerk, can you explain that, why that's coming up again so after so long?
Certainly, through you, Mayor. So the way the process works is that we need a registered plan in order to proceed with this. So a survey was drafted and registered in the land registry office, and now we're at the point where we can stop up and permanently close the road allowance and then execute the sale to the numbered company.
Right.
Okay. So we have this moved and seconded. No further questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And then the second portion, 13.3, bylaw number 2023-061, sale of municipal lands. Basically the said lands. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Townsend. The sale of those specific lands we just talked about with the last bylaw. Any questions on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. 13.4. bylaw to amend the refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw. And this is dealing with the requirement for fire inspection on those facilities. So bylaw number 13.4, bylaw 2023-062. We have somebody that would move that motion. Proceed with this bylaw. Moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Thank you. Any questions, comments on this? Councillor Shay.
Okay. Do we require fire inspections of other food preparation facilities in West Gray, like restaurants and community centers?
To the best of my knowledge, through your mayor, we license refreshment vehicles specifically. We don't provide licenses to restaurants that operate. They are required to go through propane inspections, things like that. The health unit does have to inspect, but we don't license them specifically. So I'm not certain as to whether or not we require a fire inspection there.
Can I also say, so before we go any further, that yes, we do. The chief, the deputy chief, for a long time, assistant deputy, forget what Doc's title was, did an awful lot of that. All commercial buildings, industrial, will have a fire inspection. Is it annually or biannually? I just forget which, but it's pretty regular. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Number 13.5. I don't think we're going to introduce this one, but we've got to deal with it being on the agenda. Procedural.
Yes, through your mayor Eccles. So what we need here is a motion to postpone the bylaw indefinitely.
Or you got a first and second time? No. I'm going to get him on one of these procedural things here sometime. Okay, postpone following the discussion on the staff report. Moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchison. The bylaw number 2023-063 to adopt the official plan be postponed indefinitely. Any questions, comments on that? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And 13.6, bylaw 2023-064, fees and charges. Vital to establish the fees and charges of the corporation and repeal bylaw 45/2021. Mover, Deputy Mayor Hutchison, seconder. Councillor Forrester. Questions or comments on this one? We've gone through it fairly substantially. One thing to note, the day of action, I guess to say, would be September 1st, when these fees will come into effect. Doug? Councillor Thompson.
One question on page 228 of our package, where it talks about the roller skating family rate. Did we want to put a limit on a family rate, or are we going to have parents in Newstead each take a turn of having every kid in the village as part of their family on every Friday night? So just a thought, if we should be attaching a maximum of 5 people or something like that. Well, I guess I'm more or less raising the discussion, and I guess it's more asking the people that have to administer it at the door if Councillor Forster has any thought on that. So I'm just looking for some input.
What I'm hearing down here is Councillor Forrester says, make the motion, make the motion.
All right, I will make the motion to amend that to be a maximum of 5 people for the family rate.
Excuse me. Apologies. So amend the bylaw. So we have that moved and seconded. Specifically, okay. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, I just have a little concern of like, what happens if you have 6 in your family? Like, it seems like you're being penalized if you, and the people on the door would know if they're not family members, wouldn't they? Like, I wouldn't want to discriminate against someone because they've got a big family and say, well, you 5 are okay, but you 2 now you have to pay extra. I don't know, does it open up a can of worms? Maybe, I'm not sure. It's, I hate to put people in that position and say, well, they're my family, you know, they're still family. And so anyways, that's the only concern I have. And maybe we let it go and see how it goes. I don't know.
Jamie?
Through you, Mayor Eccles, what I might suggest too is certainly if we pass the bylaw with this today and it's council and staff are made aware that this is becoming an issue, certainly an amendment could always be made in the future. So there's always a way to correct that.
So the amendment motion that's on the floor is to cap the family of 5. Okay. And any comments? Cody? Manager?
If I may, through yourself, what I can share with council when we have had family rates in the past for public skating, those sorts of events, majority of the people are fairly understanding and they're pretty respectful of that it is your family. So no matter if your family has 1 kid or 5 or 6, like often we see in this area, usually people are pretty respectful with it. So I would echo Clerk Eckenseller's comments with potentially maybe leaving it as is, but we can amend if need be later on down the line.
Okay. The motion on the floor is that the family rate be to a maximum of 5. I'm hearing it right, staff, for saying that we could leave it that way and interpret it that way from the Newstead people, but the motion is on the floor, and the amendment is on the floor. Before we deal with the motion, we'll deal with the amendment. All those in favor of the family capping? Or, sorry, Doug, one more.
If staff wants to feel it's best to leave it status quo and deal with it maybe down the road, then I have no trouble withdrawing my motion.
No? It's easier to withdraw it, or do we just can't vote on it and
kill it,
make it happen that way as well? Jamie, suggestion.
Through your Mayor, if council's wishes to revisit this in the future, potentially I would suggest withdrawing it, because if you do make a motion now and it fails, then we would need to do a motion to reconsider at a later date, which adds a layer of complexity on top of that. So procedurally, it is simpler to just withdraw the motion.
Okay. Councillor Townsend wants to withdraw his amendment motion. Councillor Forrester is in agreement with that. All of council's in it. Does council agree? Is anyone opposed? Withdrawing that motion. Nobody's opposed. That's withdrawn. Back to the motion on the floor. Bylaw number 2023-063, sorry, 064. On the fees and charges. And we haven't had that moved and seconded. I'm now correct. Very good. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. You see, you are ambidextrous, Deputy Mayor. You can vote with either hand. Please. No. Okay, and that brings us down. That's the end of bylaws. Jamie? New business, we had a notice of motion. Do you want to speak to this or Councillor Forrester? No, it's Councillor Forrester's motion. So number 14.1. Scott?
All right, that in consideration of June being Pride Month, council directs staff to fly the pride flag at the municipal office for the remainder of June.
I was
Yeah,
off
just-
mic there, but yeah, so Councillor Townsend moved, seconded to that, and
Yeah, so I'm just curious, I don't know if we have flag flying policy. I don't know if it's come across. Do we have a policy? No, we don't have a policy. So I'm just thinking maybe it's something we should look at in the future. We have other requests to fly flags. I don't have any problem with that. I'm just wondering about the time frame because to make it equal, like this one's going to be to the end of June, which is, roughly going to be a week or a little bit more. But I'm wondering if we should look at making a time frame of a week. I know the Terry Fox, we get the Terry Fox flag that we fly. We get requests sometimes for other things. We lower our flag for certain reasons, in the municipality and so on. So I'm just wondering, we probably should have a policy and then try to make it as fair as possible so that we're not, putting the flag up for a month for one group, but then somebody else it's for a day and somebody else it's for a week. Maybe some kind of standard policy would help with this going forward. Thank you.
I'll take that into account, but going further, that's kind of outside of what we're discussing here. So won't be any action on your questions as of yet. Any other comments on the motion on the floor? Scott?
All right, just one small comment. The main reason why Pride matters is because everyone should feel safe and comfortable being themselves no matter where they are.
Very good. I'm going to allow me to make a statement from the chair. I have no problem with pride. I have no problem with anybody's choice, or not necessarily a choice, just of who they are. But I find it difficult that a municipal being put in a position of flying flags. The flag is there, the flagpole is there in my mind to fly the municipal flag. And you get into the problem of flying this one, that one, and who is left out. And I think that the community should be more the flags of the municipality, of Canada, of the province. Those flagpoles are there to fly that for 365 days of the year. And in knowing that we have that inclusion is already there. I know it's idealistic to say that it doesn't happen on occasions, but as I said, I think of us putting it up, it's almost in reverse that we're saying that for this one, we're not saying it for the next one that doesn't have their flag flown or their banner put up. And the banners and the flagpoles that are there are for our municipal flag 365 days of the year. My opinion, as I said, I've got no issues with anybody, how they live their life. It's respecting the individuals, and that I think I'm hopeful that West Grey is respectful of everybody, certainly this council, but saying that it's going to be 100% throughout the community, no. It probably isn't. I'm realistic in that motion, but I think our flagpole should be for but that may be something down the road for policy. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and excuse me, and I think I'm going to echo exactly what you put up there. I think we need to be politically neutral across all aspects of some of the requests that come in, and I think I can support what you're saying there. It makes no difference to me who people are, what any part of that's not the conversation here, but I think staying politically neutral, flying the Canadian flag obviously is very important, but our municipal flag and possibly the provincial or even the county. And I'll leave it at that.
Further comments? Councillor Shay, Jeff? You made the comment that the Canadian flag represents all of us, that we would all be sort of equally and fairly included. And so it's already inclusive if we're flying that flag, and maybe the other two orders of government as well. But in fact, in terms of groups that have been disadvantaged, persecuted, or treated unfairly historically, I think that those groups and individuals who identify as part of that are sort of owed a vote of confidence and a vote of good faith. And I think that flying the flag is to say, to a certain extent, we recognize that things have not always been done correctly, and we're trying to rectify that. So in a perfect world, we wouldn't have that situation, we wouldn't have that history, and we wouldn't need to fly that flag. But we're sort of trying to compensate for a past imperfection. And we're getting there, and tremendous progress has been made. But I don't think it's time to declare the war won just yet. So that's why I think we should continue to fly the pride flag. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Townsend.
I'm just going to say that we're probably getting a little off topic, and we should probably at some point as a council put on the agenda to have a discussion and create a flag policy.
Okay. Motion is on the floor, clearly moved and seconded. Does anybody want to reread again? We're good? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay. Have staff look into that either by this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And I guess the other thing is, do we have the flag? Yep. Okay, good. Then we shall get it up and fly it with pride. Very good. Announcements. Any announcements? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I have a brief one that from our long-term care redevelopment planning task force. I just want everybody to know that no decisions have been made, but there certainly are in looking at the redevelopment of the old Rockwood. I'm not going to use the word affordable, attainable at all, but they're looking at that. They have some design build guys that have been gone through. So they figured about 30 to 40% savings as to taking it down to the ground, using the existing building, obviously the missions, and everything else that goes along with that. So it's a ways away, but there is some, looks like light at the end of the tunnel for salvaging that building and using it towards now. We may have to get some partners, not sure where it is, but so it may not be a total tear down, total loss, which is always a really good thing. So I'm sure the landfill would appreciate that too. That's one thing. And the other thing I did want to announce that the airport manager, the part of the consultant that we have hired have put in their resignation. I don't know if council call all that. But the airport board or commission is in the process of reviewing or interviewing replacements. So nothing has been done yet, but I just want to let you know about that. So it's not that the lights are off at the airport. They will certainly move forward. And that's what I could say. We do also have next week, Grey County coming down. We have a economic development, basically a strategy plan with the county on promoting this municipal airport. They're taking a lot more interest in it now because we're the last standing one now that, well, Wyerton and Owen Sound, everybody is aware that that's no longer municipally owned or under the county's umbrella, that they're private. So there's quite a bit of interest up there. So hopefully we're going to see some economic drivers come out of that and some concept, because there's obviously some key, very key people that are looking at helping us move that forward. That's all I get to bring at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Don, for those updates. Anything else? Nobody wants to talk about Canada Day celebrations coming up? Oh, yes, you do, Doug.
Well, yes, Priceville's having one along with Durham on July 1st. So hopefully people will come out and support those. Also, a couple other things that I wanted to mention is the farmers market. It's going to start June 30th. Unfortunately, there was a date got out there a little earlier, and some people didn't catch that it had been changed. So June 30th is the first Friday for farmers market, Friday afternoon. Music in the Park has started. They've had a couple sessions, and it's continues to be popular, and it's in the Riverside Park there, and Credit Union. And there's a decoration day at the Durham Cemetery, June 25th, 2 o'clock, I believe. So if anyone's interested in that, that's coming up also. So just a few announcements there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So there's one other Canada Day fireworks, depending on weather related, of course. We'll be able to put the fireworks off. Holstein has one as well too, one of our very close neighbors. Have that in the evening as well too. The Arts Fest, Jeffrey, is coming up in July 8th. Many things on that as well. And then on July 15th, the Fringe, Fabulous Festival of Fringe Film. Am I correct in saying that? I believe you've exhibited, you have had films in that in the past. Fringe Festival that's held here in Durham on July 15th. And one of the things that they're doing this year is they have, as the tickets say, and I've been asked to give one out to each council member, Fight at the Fringe. There is a company out of North Bay that if you're into artistic physical action, it's there's a few posters around town. It's a step below, as the individual told me, just one step below the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment. So they are tickets. You can feel no obligation or to declare them, because admission is free. But you have to have a ticket to get in. It is in the arena. Yes, yeah. Years ago, it probably could have been at the top of the hill any Saturday night, but not anymore. So if you pass those down, those are for council members. If you want that, sounds like an interesting thing. They were here last year, but it was not very well promoted and whatnot as an entertainment value for the community. So they want to get this out there, and there is some outstanding athletic adventures will happen that evening. Entertainment. I think that's it. Anything else, Jamie, that I should? Just one other thing. There was a couple of comments came to me. Anybody that wants to post on our calendar of events, West Gray calendar, on the website. And just your comment on the farmer's market. It can be done by anybody going on and posting that. It's not necessarily Sheila, somebody phoning you and requesting and you putting it on. They can do that themselves. Correct, okay. So any event, any organization that's having an event and wants to advertise, our calendar of events and upcoming for West Gray is there and available. And it is not restricted to just West Gray. We're there for the community, whether that's happening in Southgate or something happens over the municipal boundary. It's a community calendar, not just a West Gray calendar. So anybody that wants to do that can do that. And that's all. Closed session. We do not have a closed session or anything for closed session today. And then we are down to adjournment. I will motion that we adjourn. What time have we got? 12:11. Meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene here at 2 o'clock for 2 planning sessions. My public meetings on planning. That will be it, sir. Okay.
No. Adjourned. It's yours.